For the last 2 weeks, we've been thinking and planning, and if you really dive in to the process with me here, those last 2 videos are the most important videos in this entire series. All of the important decisions are being made up front, and from there, it's just connecting the dots. Today we're going to be looking at the process of visual design, and this is the first time on this channel that I've ever done something like this. I'm going to walk you through every single keystroke and pixel painted. This is something that has been requested a lot on this channel, and so I'm excited to finally do something like this. Now this is a long video, very long. And if you want to speed past it, I completely understand. In fact, I made a sped up version for you if you just click right there, or there's a link in the description below to the sped up version too. All right, let's get started. Okay, so what we have here is basically the final sketch from last week's video. We have the logo and the navigation down here on the side, and it's a long page right here, so this jagged edge means that it continues up here. And then we have the different sections, right? This is going to be an about section. This is going to be a YouTube, mentoring. This will be the articles that I write. We have a Vine. This would be like a work section, like a design portfolio section. We have also the newsletter section, the podcast section, and what is this? The email. Just basically a contact section. Okay, so this is what we ended up with last week, and this week I'm going to build that out in Photoshop right now. You guys can watch me as I do this, and just well, to be honest, I've already built it. Let me show you what I built. Here is the visual design based on this wireframe that I did earlier. Now the copy here, Travis is trying to grow up, but instead spends his time teaching everyone how to build websites on YouTube, mentoring people, writing and designing articles. This was taken, well, at least this lead-in sentence was taken from the current website, my current website right here, which if you go into the biography, it starts similarly. Travis is trying to grow up, but instead spends most of his time and then goes on to different things. But what I'm trying to do with this design is realign it to be more centered around the basic things that I offer to people publicly. For example, my YouTube videos that you're watching right now, or the private mentoring sessions that I give by phone, or the articles I write, or the vines that I make, right? So the idea is to establish a narrative throughout the whole page, and as the viewer scrolls down, each section is revealed, and they get a little bit more of an understanding of what it is that I do with my time. Now, also on the left here is the general navigation that would kind of skip down to any of those sections. So if I clicked articles, it would just scroll down to articles section, right? What we have here is the completed design, and what I plan to do tonight is to redesign it in front of you and show you the shortcuts, the keystrokes that I'm using, show you the different design choices that I'm making and how I'm getting these different effects, the color, the perspectives, this different type of thing. And if this interests you, then stay tuned. And if it does not interest you, then be my guest and just click the video off right now. But next week's video is going to be about setting up the project to actually start coding. So if that's more interesting to you, I understand this is, me being a designer and not a coder right now. So I do, however, think it would be really educational for you if you do watch it through, and I appreciate and respect your time, although this will take a while. Design doesn't come quickly. So let's get started. I'm going to make this window bigger by hitting the little green button up here, and then I'm going to bring back my tool palette, my tools, by hitting the tab key. So here we are, and what I want to do is create a new file. So I'm going to say Command N, and my file this time is going to be, let's say 1200 wide, and we'll just say 2000 tall. We can make that taller as we go. And the background is going to be white, but I think we should make the background, it doesn't matter. Okay, and here we are. So I'll zoom it up to be 100%, and then Now what I want to do right now is start blocking things off. So the first panel I'm going to create, I'm just going to use, I hit U to bring up the shape tool. And I'm going to click in the center there. I'm going to type it out as width is 135 and the height will be 2000 because that's the height of the document at the moment. And then I'll select both of these and align them to each other top and right. You can't see anything right now because the background is actually white. So I'll just change that right now and I'll make the background EEE, which is like a grayish color. Okay. Now, the first thing I need to do, if I'm going to look at my, actually let's just bring into view my sketch here. So my sketch is going to have, at the top here, my logo and my navigation. So let's look in, I have a folder here prepared called Assets. Let me grab this logo and put that in. It dropped it behind my rectangle, so a quick way to, instead of dragging this layer up, I could hit Command and then what's it called, the the curly bracket, and that's how you just move layers up and down. It's quicker. So I want to scale this logo down a little bit. It's naturally too big. This logo is a vector, but it's a vector smart object. So it was designed in Illustrator. If I double clicked it, it would open in Illustrator, and that's okay. But right now I just want to keep it as is. Maybe make it even a little bit smaller than that. All right, that can change depending on what I end up doing with the navigation. But speaking of the navigation, let's name our layers here. So this will be like TN logo, and this will be sidebar. Sometimes if they're going to be a background plate, I'll call them plate, or whatever you want to choose to just signify that this is not the actual sidebar, but it's like the color, it's the plate that the sidebar sits on. And I'll make these into a group called sidebar. Now I want to make the navigation, so I'll use my type tool by pressing T, and I'll just click to create a type node. And if you start typing on a type node, it's going to be what's called point type, which means the type is anchored to the node. Now the color of the type is still the background color because that's the color I was on when I started typing, but I'll just change that to black quickly. Okay. The font is the italic version of the font that I do want, so I'll just change it back to regular. And I noticed that the paragraph is, like when I'm selecting the type, you can see that this point here is on the right where it should be on the left because I want it left justified. Oh no, wait, actually I want this navigation right justified now that I'm thinking about it. So what's in our navigation? We have the About page. We have the YouTube area. I forget all these things. Where's the document? Okay, here we are. These are our notes from the last video we did. So it's going to be about YouTube mentoring. Yeah, this is right. Okay, and then I want to make the line height a little bit better. The spacing between these needs to be increased a little bit. I'll go try 30. 30 looks good. And then I'll put them right on the edge of that sidebar plate, and then I'll move it in 1 pixel, or I'll hold shift and move it in with the arrow key 10 pixels and then another 10 pixels. So it's 20 pixels in, and it looks pretty good. That means I can know how to anchor my, actually I want to put the indicator on here. So in the last design, we have this little arrow to indicate which of these sections is active. And I kind of want to do the same thing still. I want to keep as much as I can as long as it's good, So I'm going to go back to the U, I'm going to hit U for the shape tool. I'm going to hit it again. I just hit Command K to open my preferences. See this right here? This preference is usually checked by default. Use Shift key to tool switch. I uncheck that every time because I want to hit U, and see how the shape is just changing up here each time I click U. If I had that selection checked, to cycle through these I'd have to hold the Shift key. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to just go to a polygon tool, click in, it's on the number 3. Let's just say 10 pixels each side. And see what we get. All right. Double click the polygon and make it black. And I'll just turn it around here with the transform tool, and then use the direct selection tool to select that little nose and move it in, because I want a little bit of a more of a flatter triangle shape there. Yeah, I quite like that with 45-degree angles here. So the direct selection and then the selection tool, because I hit A again. So now I can drag this thing around, butt it up to the edge of this sidebar and move it in 10 pixels. And the logo, or the, oops, not the logo. Navigation here, I'm going to go back to using V, or the move tool, and that's be 20 pixels, which is nice, but I want to make it 10 pixels from the arrow. So I'll grab this TN and I'll just lock it in, move it to pixels, and if it's width 96, what's minus another, is it 5? So I'll just say width 90. Is that right? About right. All right, let's get rid of these guides. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 down from the top. And then for the navigation here, what's a polygon? Oh, that's the arrow. I'll call it the select arrow. And then also I want to go in here and make sure, like this color of this text is black. I want to change the color for all of the sections that are not currently active. So I'll just change the color into 999 so you can see where you currently are. And if the select arrow is next to that word in the navigation, then it can be fully opaque, fully black lettering. So let's move this down. What I would like to do is, you see how this navigation is kind of up at the top? I would like to have, I'm going to remove this text here, remove the mailing list, remove this email link, and just have this navigation alone, clean, just in the center, centered vertically in this area. So it's going to be hard to design that way for, you know, a static Photoshop mockup, but let's just say if our, you know, viewport was this big to this big, the navigation would be like around here, you know, like right in the center of it. So I'll just move it down just to remind myself that is my plan. Okay, so that is the sidebar complete. Now I want to look at this first section, which is going to be the About section. I'm going to go to the biography and just grab this text. Travis is trying to grow up, but instead spends most of his time making stuff and ignoring grown-up things. All right. There is an image here called Trav Wallpaper. Look at this photograph. It's ridiculous. I look like a deer in the headlights, and that is on purpose. So I'm going to drag out what should I do? I'm going to use the U again, right? I'm going to get the square shape, and I'm going to start at the top. Actually, you know what I want to do? Before I even get into this first section, I want to talk about the grid that I'm going to set up here. I know that I want this design to be responsive, and this is how I'm going to handle that responsiveness. This main menu here, this navigation and logo, it will collapse. It will collapse and stretch across the top, and, you know, I'll just have like a hamburger or something. So that's easy. The navigation is easy to make responsive because it's either on the side or it's across the top. So simple. But what about the content? Well, when you think about the devices that I have to make this site work for, the smallest device is an iPhone, which has a virtual pixel width of, I mean, the iPhone 5 does anyway, of about 320 pixels wide. So if I can make all of my content fit within 320 pixels, I'm going to be good. But what I need to do is start there and expand out. So if I have a single column of 320 pixels and then What's double of that? Well, it's 640, right? So what I'll do is I'm going to create another shape here, and I'm just going to say it's 300 pixels wide. And then I'll do another shape, and actually just duplicate this one. So now I have two shapes that are 320 pixels wide, or 300 pixels wide. If I butt them up against each other, the total shape is now 600, and I'm going to nudge this one by holding Shift 10 pixels, and I'm going to nudge it twice. So now the total width of this shape to this shape is 620 pixels. See? Now, this is going to be the full expression of my site's capacity for width. It looks really small, doesn't it? Well, it doesn't have to feel small, although it is technically small. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to just group these together and then make another grid, or not another grid, but another box here. Maybe whatever. And I'll take him all the way over to the edge of this sidebar. Good job. And then this one to the edge of that canvas. Okay. Now I'll take this group and select also that new rectangle that I did, and I'll center the group on the rectangle. So if I select this rectangle and bring out my ruler by hitting Command R, start dragging out the guides on the two edges of this shape, and then again the two edges of this shape. I can go ahead and delete all these shapes now. I don't need them anymore. What I have here is a 2-column grid with a collapsible sidebar, and I have this space on the edge which are just margins, right? And why did I do this? Well, I can use this space for visual design. That's fine. But the problem is, or rather how I want to kind of orientate this design, is I want to keep all of the critical content inside of these guides here. Don't let any critical content, and the critical content that I keep in here, I want to make sure that it itself is collapsible, meaning that the left-hand column will collapse onto the right-hand column at any given time, and it will still make sense. It will still be nice and pretty. So if that's true, if that's really what I want to do, this is awesome. Let's get started with the first section. So I'm going to hit U to get the shape tool back, and I'm going to click to create another rectangle. I don't care how big this rectangle, it's 100 by 100, and I'm going to click both of this layer shape and the background, hit V to get my move tool, and I'm going to snap it to the right and to the top. And then I can just transform it, drag out a big block, right? And this is going to be the first section. I can make it a little bit less intimidating as a big black dark spot, but this area here is going to be the container, is the plate, right? So I'm going to call this the about plate. This will just repeat. Each of these sections is a big plate. So I can use this plate, and I'll just put these both into a group and call it section section about. Now I can use this plate as a tool to crop my photograph, actually. And the design that I had called for it being like, here in the sketch, it was like, you know, my head and shoulders off to the side, kind of like this or more, you know. And while that's cool, whatever, I messed around with a lot, this guy, and ended up kind of pushing him in the corner, kind of like a Kilroy esque looking kind of character, and I thought that it was fun or charming or something. I don't know what it was, but I liked it. So now this photograph is really large, so I'm not worried about stretching it up or scaling it up. And I do want to have some space for the text, though. And what is the text? Travis is trying to grow up. Okay, that's fine for blocking right now. Let me just make those text boxes. Now, the difference here between this box and the text that we made our navigation in is that this is a text box instead of point text. So the text will wrap, it will be contained in this box, and that's nice for people who make websites and design for websites, because everything on a website is a box. And so this will reflect that behavior quite well, as opposed to point text that we use for the navigation. So what is the phrase? Travis is trying to grow up, right? Comma, but instead spends his time. I'll just leave it at grow up. And then I will right align the text inside of this text box and scoot it up to like 60. Really, really, really big. And make more room for it. If I have this text highlighted, I can select into these different parameters and kind of just like make them go up and down and stuff. This should actually be 0. Okay, that's a good line height, a little tighter maybe. And maybe even bigger on the font. Is that 60? What about 72? There we go. Now you might be saying like, whoa, this font is too big. Look, Travis, you're breaking the grid right here. Well, that's fine. You know, that's fine, because the critical text is inside of both of these columns. It's not, you know, hanging out to the right. That would worry me if my text was hanging off to the right. That would worry me. But the critical messaging is still inside of these two columns. That means I can feel kind of confident that that they're going to be, that, you know, they're going to shrink down when I'm. Let me show you. When I'm shrinking the canvas down, when it's going mobile, that will still all work well right there, and that's the important part right now. So Travis is trying to grow up. Let's duplicate this layer, and what's the rest of the copy? But instead spends his time. And I want to make this significantly smaller, maybe 36. And I'll tighten up that line height. And there we go. Okay, now I'm glad that I did this right now. I think this text is too big for the top. Maybe 60 is better. Good, good. And I'll shorten up this box so that the line wraps a little tighter. Right about there. That's good. Okay, so this is good blocking for the text, but the face is a little off right here. So let's stretch it up, move it down, because I want this like the kind of the eyes peeking out look. Okay, great. Now I'm gonna say that's good right there. Now because I drug this image in directly from my Finder, it got placed as a smart object thumbnail. A smart object thumbnail means that the image is contained inside of an artifact that I can click into and rediscover this image here, but I don't need to anymore. I think that I don't need all that extra imaging, but I do have this place at the top here, which is a problem. Actually, now that I think about it, you know what I want to do? I do want to keep it as a smart object, because when I'm exporting this image, when I'm cutting this design up to build, I want to be able to have a flexible asset, right? I don't want to crop it here, because maybe when I'm building the design, like the crop will be a little bit different, or things might change. So I want to click into this asset here and press Command Option C for the canvas size. And as you can see, it's already really big, but I need to add some height. Actually, no, I don't want to do that. I'll do the crop tool. I'll just stretch out some height. That might work. Let me see. Yeah, that'll be enough. And I'm going to use the selection tool, the marquee tool, by hitting M, and I'll select this white area, and I'll just hit delete. Now the delete tool, because this is a background layer, will bring up this dialog called fill. And there's a lot of different ways you could do. I could fill this area with the foreground color, which is black, right? I could fill it with the background color. I could choose a color to fill it with, this red. I could fill it with gray or a pattern, or I could choose this one, content aware. And what this will do, Adobe Photoshop will look around at the context of this image and just try to like make intelligent decisions at how to fill these pixels. Let's see what we get. And we might get a monster. No, we didn't get a monster. Sometimes you'll get like eyeballs and stuff floating up here. But generally, it figured out that like we're on a background, a gray background, and this is kind of what we want. So when I deselect, oh, that actually did a lot better than I thought it would too. I was thinking we'd have to do a little bit of cleanup, but yeah, I'm kind of happy with that. So I'm going to save that. And then when I go back to the design that had that image placed, you can see that the canvas has grown for this image, and it's been pushed down or something. I just need to replace my face and stuff. But now that the color is all over there. Cool. Now I want to go into this the adjustments tab, and I'll choose this adjustment here, which is called a gradient map. A gradient map is a really great tool. I've just been messing with it recently, actually. And what it does is, let me turn it off to show you. It will find all of the darkest parts of the image. See this dark hair? See these eyebrows? The pupils? Those are the darkest parts of the image. And then the brightest parts of the image, like this kind of shine on the forehead or the whites of the eyes. And it will map this gradient to the respective shades in the image, right? So the darkest parts will be even blacker, because that's true black. And the whitest parts, these whites of the eyes, will be true white. That's why it gets like a really, stark black and white right there. And that's cool if you want a black and white image, but that's not what we want. I want to pick a new gradient, so I'll choose like, I'll go to like a purple and choose like, what is this for the dark? Interesting dark purple, like that. Then for the whites, I'll have that same purple, but like almost white, All right. Actually, I'm going to go back to this one. I really liked this, whatever I did here. So here's the gradient map of this one that I did, and I like this better. It's like it's less purple, but more of like a pink, burnt pink, and it's just a fun color. Oh, I'm noticing that my canvas is a lot smaller here. What is it? It's 950, the whole thing. That's interesting. Well, it'll be interesting to rebuild this a lot wider, huh? Okay. And this is, I'm not like really nervous about this because I designed this to work inside of these columns, and we will really get a good view of how this design will work in a responsive way, because now we're rebuilding this visually, but in a wider canvas, and I already like it. So what was I saying? Oh yes, duplicating a layer. You can duplicate layers between different files. And how you do that is you right click on a layer and click duplicate layer. Now you would think like, oh yes, I'll just duplicate here and now I have two of these. Well, you can duplicate it to a new file, right? Here's the one that we're working on. I haven't saved it yet, so it's called untitled. I'll click OK, and then when I go back here, I'll get rid of that. Wait, which map do I not like? Okay, here's the purple one. So gradient map 2 is the one that I duplicated from the previous file. And I like it. It's like a faded out burnt pink. it's quite a nice color. And I think that I had the text based on the background color. So let me just select this text and select color, find a dark area here, and then darken it up a little bit more, but not too much. That's good. So I'm going to duplicate that color for this second row of text here. And then this is the completed about section, and it definitely fits within the grid. And again, when this face gets cut off, let me show you again. when this becomes all the way down here to become responsive. But you can see that like we still have a way to make this head image interesting because it's already cropped mysteriously. Like another weird cropping on the side is not going to be a big problem. Okay, on to the next section. This is the YouTube section. I sketched that I wanted to have a YouTube thumbnail right here, playable maybe, and then some words, language, and then the YouTube call to action here in this section. So let's get started with that section. I'll just borrow this plate again by holding Option. I get this duplicate layer. I'm going to drag it all the way up. And now I have a duplicate of the plate. And I can use this plate, and I call it the YouTube plate. I know that I want this YouTube plate to be red because YouTube. That's really red. Maybe a little bit less really red. That's better. Okay, so this YouTube plate, so this same text right here, if I hold Command, you see how this, when I push the Command button, the auto select tick box here gets ticked. A quick way to select any layer visually is just to press Command and then tick that layer. So I'm going to pull up this this text selection, this text layer as well. And I can just jump into it and start editing. So what is the phrase? Travis is trying to grow up, but instead spends his time teaching everyone how to make websites on YouTube. And I'll have an ellipsis here and then an ellipsis at the top too. Now I want to have this ellipsis hang, which means I want the T to be flush with the E right here. So I'll select this and then go into the paragraph box, and this line right here, or this option here, is called indent first line. You can make the first line go in or out, and I'm going to outdent right now to make this T nice and flush with the H below it. There we are. Now I'm not concerned with those ellipses hanging off right there. So this is going to hang in the first column quite nicely. Teaching everyone how to make websites on YouTube, and then I need a call to action. So I'm going to make a new shape here, and just drag it out from this area to this area. And I'll color that white. My text is going to be white too, I forgot about that. And then for this rectangle, I'll say CTA shape. The rectangle needs some text on top of it, like as a label for the button, so I'll make this text. And I'm going to turn this text in basically the same color of red that it sits on. And then I'll say watch on YouTube. And I don't need this text to be inside of a box. In fact, it'd be a little bit more helpful if it wasn't. And also I need to remove the outdenting right here. So I'm going to say 0. Okay, now to get this text out of the box that it's in, I'm going to right click on the layer and select Convert to Point Text. Now it's just point text and I want it centered. Okay, so now I select the text layer and the box, and I'll just center up with using these alignment tools right here. Now I got a little bit out of alignment with my grid, but that's fine. Now I want to make the text a little smaller to fit nicer into that box. I think 24 is good, maybe a little bit bigger, 30. Maybe 24. And when I was choosing the font, I had this really hard time because I really wanted to use Fira Mono. I just like mono fonts. No, I'll just leave it. Leave it. 24, maybe 30. Maybe 28. 28 it is. Whatever. I'm going to center up again. Okay. Now look, that looks good. The last thing I want to do to this button is I want to add a little bit of a drop shadow to the button, and I want to make that, okay. So when you're adding drop shadows, there's like a default style of drop shadow, right? It's, you know, use global light, there's 120 degrees, 75% opacity and all that. It's all rubbish. Don't ever use the default drop shadow. So I'm going to turn off global light, take the opacity of this thing and just knock it down to 40 or even less. Make the light come straight from the top. Distance maybe 2 or 3 pixels, and the size maybe bigger, maybe 10. Knock up the distance, maybe 4. Right. That's good. And then now I could say okay, and that would be okay for this one, but if I try to make another drop shadow later, it would go back to those defaults. So what I want to do is say, make this the default. Yeah. And then, okay. Now the next one the next drop shadow I try to put on any shape or any layer is going to have the new defaults that I just described right now. So I have half of my grid with text in it, and then the other half, let's actually do some aligning here. What I usually do to like get my my alignments and my measurements is I just use multiples of 10. So I make this text go all the way up to the top and hold shift and start nudging 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50 pixels down. Now I'll select just the button, move it back up to the bottom of the text there, and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50 pixels down. That's good. So let's get some video thumbnails. I'm going to go over to my channel on YouTube, and I think I'm going to start with this Bootstrap Grid introduction. Right click and say copy image URL. I'll create a new a new tab and paste that URL in there. Now this is a WebP. If you're using Chrome, it'll probably serve you a WebP image. A WebP image is not a JPEG, it's not a PNG, it's a Chrome thing, it's a Google thing. And you're not going to be able to drag it onto your desktop and use Photoshop to manipulate it. So you need to get a JPEG. The way you do that is you edit the URL from vi_webp to just vi, and then you change the extension to JPEG. Now it doesn't look like anything has changed, but now we have a JPEG that we can just drag onto the table here. I'm going to go back to my design, drag it into the center. Fantastic. And it's not quite sized, so I'll just scoot it down to 300 pixels wide. And there we go. I'm going to get a few other thumbnails too. Alright, now let's drag all of these 4 more here onto the area, the canvas here. We have these 4 right here, and group them. And I call them BG thumbs, where they're like thumbs in the background, thumbnails in the background. And I'm going to spread them out. Spread these thumbs out. Okay, now I can select them all and hit this button called Distribute Vertical Centers. That will just take these, the space in between all these, and make them all distributed. There's the button right there. Okay, now I'll take this group and I'll convert it to a smart object. Now it's just one layer, and if I need to get in there, I can to change these images out or make them whatever, but it's just easier to mess with now. And here's my YouTube play. Actually, okay. So I want to take these thumbnails and I'm going to shrink them down a little bit to where they look like they're going to be like in a carousel or something like that. And I'll make them clipped by the YouTube plate. And then I'll put that drop shadow on the YouTube video here, the playable one, but I need to beef it up because I want it to be a little bit. I want it to make sure it sits on top of them all. I'll make the size, the spread wider, and darken it up, and actually take the spread up a little bit. Okay. And then also I'll put the same drop shadow on these background thumbs, and then I'll just lower it a little bit. Just to make sure they pop off the background a little bit, but not too much. And we can definitely have a sense of depth here, that this thumbnail is definitely above these other two. Now, maybe this will be like a playable embed, right? If this is going to be a playable embed, it needs to look different. A playable embed doesn't actually look like that. It has a play button and like a black strip across the top. Something similar to this. And I'll just hit Control-Shift-4 to get these crosshairs, and I'll drag out a selection of this thumbnail, and that is going to add a screenshot to my my desktop. I'll drag that into Photoshop, not into my document, but into Photoshop, so I can use the crop tool to get tighter in on this image. And great, cropped it. Now I can pull this into my design so that I can give it a little bit more of a realistic feel. And I'll size it up using the transform tool that I accessed by hitting Command T. And its width is going to be 300 pixels wide. I could have just done that. Cool, I like that. I think that these background, what did I call them? The YouTube BG thumbs. Let's go back in there. I think these could be a bit tighter. And distribute them again. So I'll just save these again, and then I'll see how they get tighter, and that's reflected in the design again. Now, when we build this out, I want to make it like that these are kind of parallaxing, or that maybe another idea is that you can click on this one and it would become the playable one. I'm not sure yet. But the last thing I want to do is take this drab background, this red background, and just kind of liven it up a little bit. I'm going to open in Illustrator. I'm going to open in Illustrator my logo for DevTips. And there it is. And I'm going to grab this one. Now I'm in Illustrator. I'll just hit the type tool and make a type right here, input type here. And I'll go to font size, or what is this, character, and I'll choose a new font, which is going to be called Font Awesomer, which is a variant of Font Awesome. And I'll select the YouTube play button. And then while I have it selected, I'll hit Command-Shift-O to outline it. And there we are. Now I have a logo here, vector logo of DevTips, and have a vector logo of the YouTube play button. I'll make it yellow too. So they're about the same size, but if you squint your eyes and look at this, you can see that the YouTube logo is seriously heavier or bigger. You know, like heavier is a better word. And if I'm going to create a step and repeat, which like basically a wallpaper or something with these two things, they need to kind of have the same weight. So I'm going to make this smaller, even though it has a smaller size. I'm trying to get the same visual size or visual weight. And a good way to tell that is by squinting your eyes. If you squint your eyes right now, you can see that I'm getting closer when I make this smaller to them being both kind of equal in the hierarchy. And I think that's pretty good right there. I'm going to draw a stick with it using the M tool. I'm going to draw a box like measuring basically the difference between these two, and then another one, basically taking that same measurement out. Cool. Now, I'm going to hold Option and drag to duplicate, and kind of just use those measurements to say, okay, I want these all to be equidistant. Now that I've made that first duplication, I can hit Command D to basically continue those duplications and kind of repeat that step quite a number of times. So I have a big long string of these things. I'm going to go in there and select all of those lines in between because we don't need them. I just use them for measurement. There should be a better way to do this. What if I select all of them and then unselect those ones? Yeah, that's better. Okay, and then now that these like YouTube playheads and DevTips logos are all kind of spaced out evenly, I can take them, move them down and over. So like in a 45-degree angle, kind of like that. And I'm holding Shift to constrain my angles pretty well here, and let go, and then do it again. D D D D D D D D D D D D D D D D D. Do it till. Okay. Oh. Illustrator's like, nope. Okay. Let me just cut off the tips of these because I don't need the tips. Oh, that's why it was hitting the edge. And then I'm going to grab this pattern here and press copy. And I'm going to take it into my Photoshop document. Put it above the plate and click Command V to paste it. And I'm going to paste it as a smart object. So it's basically a vector object inside of this Photoshop document. And hit enter. This background thumbs are being constrained to it now instead of the plate, but that fixed that by constraining these both to the plates. Now, it's yellow, and that's weird. That's not what I want, so I'm going to double click it, and color overlay is what I'll mess with, and make it black, and then maybe drag the opacity down to like 9 or something. Oh no, not the opacity of the overlay. I'll take the fill down, and then I'll mess with that opacity again. Down to maybe like 9. All right. That's cute. That's not what I want, is it? I don't want that. It is pretty cute though. I'd like to add some perspective to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it with the what is this thing called? I always forget. Transform tool. Right. And then right click in it, and I would like to hit distort, but I can't because it's not the right kind of vectors. It's not the right kind of smart object. It's a vector smart object, and you can't distort that. So I'll just take this vector smart object and convert to smart object. So now it's no longer a regular. I don't really understand why this happens, but now I have this this distort option. And I can grab the corners and kind of move them in a perspective-ish way to where it feels like you're looking in like down a hall or something, right? And now also I want to go back to scale and just move it up, just scale it up, because it was kind of small. Is that good? I can distort it a little bit more, bring this corner in. How does that look? That's quite nice. I like it. So that's like a nice background image there. It's pretty good. I think I want this text. I want this text to be a little bit more centery, so I'll just bring it down. And I can have this floating in the center of this thing however tall it is. Yeah. Okay, now let's wrap all of these layers into a group and call this section YouTube. Good. Great. Next section, mentoring. Mentoring. What a great section. I feel like I need to give each of these sections like a pat on the back. Like, you're a good section, aren't you? Yeah. So I took this photograph. Where is my photograph? I took a photograph. Here's my photograph. I called Carlos and he answered the phone and was like, "Hello, hello," and I just photographed the phone and then hung up on him. He texted back later, was like, "What did you need?" Anyway, so I took a photograph of a phone, and what this section represents are the phone conversations that I have with people from time to time. I do a service where I mentor people on the phone. Basically, it's a 15-minute phone call, and we just talk about whatever they feel they need to talk about. And it's been a really, really interesting experience for me. I really enjoyed it. But what I want to do is kind of help people to find out about that service and to take the opportunity to call me. So the language here is going to be something a little different. Let's see what we did at other design. Actually, I want to grab that gradient layer, just like I did before. So take this gradient map and duplicate to entitled. Okay, here we are. And then I'll just clip it to the photograph here. So now we have this cool blue photo, and then I'll take this text on the button and change it from a red to a cool blue. Looks good. And the text is going to be, let's see, Travis is trying to grow up, but spends his time teaching everyone how to make websites on YouTube. And then this one could be like men, people like you. Oops, get that T out of there. Okay, mentoring people like you. That's quite nice. I like how it's succinct. That means I can scoot it up closer to this button here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's good, that's good. Now what I plan to do over on this half, ooh, that's way out. Let's get that back. There we go. Get back in the grid. Get back in the grid. Okay, now what I want to do on this half is have actual people, faces and things that have called me, and we've already talked to them. So I've been doing these mentoring sessions for a little bit now, and I've been collecting like testimonials and stuff. So it'd be nice to have a few testimonials here. I think that's kind of what I outlined here, like some faces and then a little speaking bubble or something like that. Well, I have the faces here already, but I got them from Twitter or something like that. And these are like real faces. I don't want to bore you guys with going through my text files and finding their Twitter handles and their faces. So I want to show you guys one of the things I use for mockups, one of the websites I use for mockups called uifaces.com. uifaces.com. Isn't it wonderful? Okay, so I'm just going to take these UI faces and plop them onto this design. One. Let's get a girl here, and here's a smiley guy, and nobody's smiling yet. I need some smilers. Here's a tip, guys: smile in your photos. This guy is a classic. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe like 5 or 6. I like this face right here. And the last one, another smiling. Can't stop smiling. Okay, so we have what, 6? And I will make them all the same space by selecting them all and then aligning them all to each other. Now they're just one space, or one brick. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hide them, and then I'll use the shape tool, and I'm going to hit it a few times until I get a sphere or an elliptical shape tool. And I'll click on that, and 100 pixels by 100 pixels seems a little bit big, but there we are. Is that too big for a face? Yeah, maybe it's a little bit big. Let's transform it down to 80. Yeah? No, that's too small. Maybe 100 is fine. I don't know. I'm too stressed out about these images. Okay. So I'm going to select the direct selection and the selection tool here by striking the key A, holding Option and moving these circles up, 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 up. Okay, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is all we needed eventually in the end. And then I will go to the Align, Distribute, Vertical Centers again. Distribute Heights, I guess, is what I wanted. Okay, now they're all equidistant from each other. And we're going to line them up to the edge here. Okay, these circles are going to be the masks for these images here. And I'll just click into them. And if you're holding Option, you see how when you hover between two layers, if you're holding Option, you get this kind of like square and a down angle arrow. That just means like add this to the layer mask below. So now I can drag these guys into circles and kind of reshape their faces like that. Hello. Reshape your face, okay. Oh, there's that smiling guy. It's got a nice smile. Smile will take you far in this life. I think I'll leave his kind of like artsy off to the side and stuff. So cool. And the last one, oh, this guy. He is my favorite. What was the other one? Oh, he's got a nice beard too and a smile. Nice lighting on that one. But I'll keep the crazy beard guy. Something about this guy is so charming. He's got this wild beard, but he likes it. He knows something. He knows something that you don't. Okay, so I'm clipping here on the top, and so I need to move this ellipsis into right here. Or maybe I'll just take, here's what I'll do. Nope. I'll take these shapes and I'll right click and convert to Smart Object. Now again, it's just this easier face, so I'll call this UI faces. It's an easier layer to manipulate. I don't have to worry about all those things, but if I do want to get into there and change them, I can right here. So close that, drag this down right on top of the gradient map, and then use that layer clipping feature again by holding Option and click there. So now the top of his face and the bottom of his face are being clipped by the section, and we can imply that these people are part of this section but not above it or something like that. Oh, these faces are bigger. Kind of like them smaller. Kind of like them smaller. Let's do a right click. No, let's go double click. Double click drop shadow so that they stick off a page a little bit. And now we're going to create this interaction where these guys have like word balloons that they're going to be using. And I'm still a little, excuse me, I'm still a little unclear in my brain about how this will in the end pan out, but you know, interaction wise, but here's what I'm thinking in the moment. We're going to take a shape layer again. This time I'm going to use a rounded rectangle instead of a regular rectangle. Just drag that out. It's black. That's nice. I want the rounding to be a little bit more aggressive, so I'll knock it up to 5 pixels. Maybe more. Maybe 15 pixels. Okay. Okay. Well, maybe more. Maybe 50 pixels. Ooh, aggressive. And then I'll unlock the bottom. I'll unlock the layer, so now you can edit them independently. And I'll move this one back to 10. So now it looks like it's coming, you know, like it's actually a shape coming from somebody's mouth here. And let's look at my grid. I think that it's good that it's breaking the grid, and I can find another way to represent it later when it's too small. But what's interesting is that these 5 faces can move within the confines of the panel, but I kind of like actually want this shape of the word balloon to be fixed. I don't want it to go below or on top of these words or the call to action. So maybe the interaction will be like if you click this guy's face, these UI faces will scroll up all together, and then the balloon will change with his words in it. I think that might be nice. We'll see when we get to it in the future, whenever I make that video. Let's style up this balloon. Let me actually I'll just grab the text here, because, you know, another way to get text onto another document or to copy and duplicate to another document is to grab the element and then drag it physically up onto the tab, and then there you are. Okay, so this is a real what's it called? Testimonial, and I like it. It's nice. Let me center it well here. Let's put it in. Let's give this text a padding of 1, 2, 1, 2, like 20 pixels. That means we want to change this shape a little bit more. Oh, I think that the corners need to be, actually we need to be more aggressive on our padding, because the corners are so aggressive. 50 pixels? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe 40. Okay, let's do 40. Go back to the text and realign it with 40 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Oof, that's a lot of pixels. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. That still works, but if any of these comments get any bigger than this, 3, 4, it'll be problematic. But that looks nice. Okay, so do I want a black word balloon? I think I did like a gray word balloon here with a white stroke on it. Just try out a different scheme. That's nice. I can do a drop shadow on this box. Oh, what? That's glow. I was like, wait. Alright, drop shadow on the box. Make it a little bit more aggressive again to stand out amongst the other things. That this is definitely on a top layer. I misspelled mentoring, I realized. Mentoring. Let's see. I think that's good. I think that's nice. So what I want to do, I don't know, is it clashing too much? Like you're like, when you come to this, all right, let me just think about this. When you come here, this is easy, obviously, to read. This is obvious to read. This, that's why I like this. It's a little bit more understated than this, and it's, yeah, okay. So what I'll do, I'll use the dark one. I'm gonna clear layer styles, remove that drop shadow, change the color to black, and change the fill to like 50 or something. No, well, change the text color to not white, but not black either. How about, let's say like CCC, like a gray, a light gray. That's good. That's good. And the rounded rectangle had a shape, had an outline on this one. which helped it stand out a little bit. So if I go to U and select these, when I say U, when I hit the U tool, see, I use these, what are they called, keyboard shortcuts so much, I don't even know what the name of the tool is anymore. It's called a shape tool, I think. But I call it the U tool because I hit U and there it is. So I'm going to give it a stroke. And that's more closely aligned with what it was before. I'm going to knock that fill up a little bit. How about, let's say 70 pixels or 70%. That's good. You guys like that? What do you think about that? That's all right, right? It's all right, right? And it can be like, yeah. Yeah, I like it. Okay, cool. Let's actually just save this because I realized I haven't saved it yet. So we'll call it TN 2015 tip. I'll save it in assets. Okay. Okay, awesome. So let's take a look at what the next section is going to be. The next section on this wireframe is going to be the articles. And I have already expressed a distaste for what I accomplished here. The design, I don't like it very much. I think there's a better thing I can do. So this should be fun. I'm going to extend the canvas. Oh, let's wrap these into a group here called section. Section what? Section mentoring. Now what's nice about having these things in sections is that, you know, like what if I don't want this over here and I want mentoring to be next? And they're just going to work like that because the design is not kind of like dependent on what came before it. So if I decide that YouTube and then mentoring is kind of a weird flow, I can change it. And that's quite nice. I'm going to use the crop tool and just kind of pull down. I'm going to crop me some more area to work with. Looks good, looks good. All right, now the next section I want to do, take this plate. Why is it red? Oh, a YouTube plate. I'll just call it plate. I'll call you phone plate or mentoring plate. But you're done with you and done with you. Okay, so this plate here is going to cinch up to the next one, and it's going to be what? Mentoring articles. It's going to be articles. Okay, so I'll do another grab of the headline or the the text area in the CTA. Put that above my next plate and move them down. Okay, and this plate is going to be a little bit more muted. The text can be like 999, and so can the the call to action text as well. Cool. Fantasmic. Now, you see how this text ellipsis is hanging off the grid? I don't care about that. I'm not worried about it because you can do this with CSS. I don't have to make the box physically bigger and move each line in. You can do first line indentations, so that should be fine. And if it doesn't work out like that, I can do a few other tricks. So it won't work out. It won't mess up my grid. So let's continue on. How do I want to represent these articles, which are on my website like this? And I have an idea sketched out here, which are just like basically 3 columns. And it would be cool if I could, I'm going to duplicate this plate here. Change the color a little bit so I can see it. Let's see it. So this is basically the area I have to work with. What if I made it just Well, this is the area that I definitely have to work with, right? And then this area is basically extra. Because, do you understand why? Because this middle panel is one whole column in my grid, and when this collapses, the mentoring people like you section will go on top, and then oh, it shouldn't say mentoring people like you. It should say like writing and designing articles or whatever. Writing and designing articles, no, or whatever, just exactly that. And I actually did like it how the text here is straight up dark, yo. It's straight up dark. So I'll change that from 999 to like 333. It's good. It's good. I'll change this to 666. Good. It's good, guys. We're doing good here. Let's move this text. Let's move the button down 50 pixels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's what we have. We have 50 pixels. The space between here is 50 pixels, but the space between these all can change. That's kind of like the new rules we're deciding. And writing and designing articles. So this might be interesting if I take like what if I just come in here to an article that I've written. Okay, I like this poem. Okay, and I'm going to do Control-Shift-4 and take a picture of it. I'm going to place it at 100%. And I'll just crop it to that box, that plate. Now, what's interesting about this is that, you know, I have in like my website currently, the index is just like a whole bunch of these screenshots, so they're not hard to come by. I'm going to grab the next one too. Yeah, for this guy. Oops. So I locked the perspective before I made it 100% because when I just did that just now, it was all wonky. Okay, so now this weird bunny is cropped up quite nice. There you go. And then this poem should be cropped up quite nice too. And I want to be able to kind of say like, look, I write and design these articles, here they are, and maybe I should like bunch them in together. So now I'm fitting 2 inside my grid, right? Yeah, that was 50%. So now there's 2 inside my grid, and okay, so let's say this. Let's think about this. Or maybe I can do like not big strips. Not big strips. Why do these all say watch on YouTube, these buttons? Oh, silly T. T is the first letter of my name. Schedule a call is going to be the call to action for that one. And this one would be see all articles. And also this other time I did a really cool blue button here. I want to do the blue button again. I like the blue button. Blue button's done. Okay. How about this? Instead of making Doop, 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 doop. Instead of making these plates like, oops. Oh, here we are. Okay, instead of making these plates big strips, what about making these plates like squares? Just really, like basically like a grid that you would see anywhere. What is it, 150 pixels wide? Let's do 150. 150 by 150. And I'll use my grid to line it up better. 150 and 150 is 300, we know that. So this kind of works out that there's, you know, 2 boxes to a grid, or too tall. That's 3. 3 is good enough, and I'll just actually make this plate shorter than the others. I don't care about that. Okay, now I have this checkerboard grid looking here, and I can just take that and duplicate it out, because if I make this canvas bigger, I could just like see other articles. I have a butt ton of articles, right? Like 50 something articles that are written and designed over the years, just like this kind of big archive. And yeah, I think this title plus CTA, it could be contained within that space that we have for it, but also it can just extend off to the left, you know, for a great deal. And I think that's a good idea. Okay, so each of these kind of squares would be one of the articles. And if you hover over it, so it'd be like just a thumbnail, kind of like a grid of thumbnails. And if you hover over them, let's see what it would be like. I would turn this out. Okay. Article name and date. So I'll just put a date here, like December 10, 1982. That's my birthday. The text is going to be a lot smaller. It's going to be like 14 maybe. Yeah. And the line height can be auto or even shorter. No, that's fine. Maybe the name of the article can be, no, keep it regular, but taller, like 18 pixels. Okay. And then italicize the text, or the date. Okay. So this will be the article name and the date that it was published if you hover over it. But if you don't, if like just by default, like it's going to be maybe even down at the bottom. That's kind of cooler. A little bit more avant-garde. I'm going to change this to point text so it's a little bit cleaner layer-wise. Okay. Good. Let me take a look at this place here. These units. So what I've just done is I've just kind of like tried to recreate the grid using the live website here. And I've gotten pretty close, but it's the JavaScript that's causing these gutters in between them all. But we have an interesting kind of effect here. So I can just screenshot a bunch of these, or all of these, and I'm gonna try that again. And then take that screenshot into Photoshop and literally just chop it up and try to recreate this grid that I want. So create another document in Photoshop. And okay, here's how I'll do this. I'll use the marquee tool and select these all, and then press Command J. Do it again for this layer. Press Command J. Do it again for this layer. And what I'm doing is I'm creating, Command J just duplicates the selection into a new layer. So I'm creating new versions of these columns that I can just kind of cinch together and ignore the border or the margin in between them. Goodness gracious, can I please get a selection? Here we are. J, oops, I have to select the original layer before you hit J because there was nothing being selected there. All right, and then the last one right here. I'm pretty excited about this. I think this will be quite nice when it's done. Okay, now I'm just gonna start moving these together. There you go. Does that look like a good grid? And this one was 4 tall. No, it was 3 tall. So let me, I'm going to press Command Shift question mark to get the help menu, and I'll just write trim, and then I'll trim these naked pixels out, and then I'll just Command E to flatten these all to one layer again. And then I'll move that onto my grid, and now that I have that, I can use, I don't need all these plates anymore. There we are. So I can just hide these. Yes. And then there's the last one. Where is it? There you go. You will be, let's see. It would be fun if these are like all different colors when you hover over them too. If they're like different random colors. It'd be fun. And the text could be white. Okay. Or like a tint. They could be like a little tinty. So I if I hit the number key from like 0 is fully opaque. These control the opacity. Hit like maybe 70% right there. That's cool. I can get rid of the rest of these plates because I don't need them anymore. Because I have this big pixel grid that I made just now. I don't need you in numbers. Okay. What do you think? I mean, I think I like it. I think it's pretty great. Okay. And it sits up in my grid pretty well, even though it's going to extend off to the right of the grid. If the grid gets smaller, it currently looks quite nice in a big area, and that's what I like. Cool. So that is the articles section. And this is what it looked like, before this evening. I didn't really have a great plan, so I just kind of took a screenshot of this and kind of just crammed it in there. But I think this is a more compelling design. So I'm happy with that. Let me just okay, you, and then let me just put you in a grid and call it section articles. Great. Now let me pull that plate out of the mentoring because I did make the plate smaller for articles, and I just want to make sure that the original size looks good still. plate. What kind of plate is this? What kind of plate is this? Oh, it's Vine. Is that right? Next, articles, Vine. Now we're getting somewhere. What did I choose for Vine? Vine has like a big old embed and then the quote. Okay, so let's take that CTA again from here. You good old CTA from here. And put it on this side of the grid. I'm going to vary it up. And what was the text I used here? Offering creative lifestyle tips on Vine. I quite like that. Let's use that again. Offering. I'm just offering them. Offering creative lifestyle tips on Vine. Is that how you spell lifestyle? Lifestyle. It just looks weird. Okay, so what did I do here? I got the Vine colors. I went to vine.com and I have my vine.com is called Just the Tips. Oh, like, wait.
Thanks for voting yesterday. We got.
Oh, hello, handsome. So what you can do with all of these vines, I'm going to get one that doesn't look like a... Oh, shut up. Okay, I want to get one that doesn't look like I'm a complete Dorcas. That one's nice. So I'll right-click here and click Embed. Now I want to get this green color here, so I'm going to inspect element. That's like the vine green right here. So here's the hex for the vine green. I'll just steal that. I'll deal with the embed in a few minutes. Autoplay off. Postcard. Yeah, postcard. Stop autoplaying. Okay. Okay, here's the design. So I want to take the plate color and give it that hex. Change the CTA back to white. What did I do here? Did I make it white? Yeah, I did make it white. Okay. Turn the CTA color button color back to white, and the text color back to Vine color, and this color of the text back to white. Okay, now that's better for this color. It looks really nice. Let's get that embed on the left, and then we can move on. So stop playing. Stop it. Stop. Stop. Stop it. Stop it. You're beautiful. Stop. I don't want this button here. What does a Vine embed look like without? I want the postcard. 480. 320. Still 20 pixels too tall, bro. Or wide. Let's see if we can make it even smaller. This is the one, viewport. Oh, no, it's not. Here it is. Oh, there we are. It's the 320. Okay. Let's change it to 300. You know that's what our grid is going to be. There we go. Oh, it just cut off the edges. Boo. Boo. Change it back to 320. I don't know. We can do something. We can scale it down if we need to. But I like the idea of having a live Vine. Let's try to get one where he's looking good. Ah, does that look good? Taking pictures of myself. Derp. Whatever. That's fine. Okay, put it in Photoshop. And then I need to crop it down. And I'll use that by selecting the marquee tool. Command D, I didn't get it right. Okay, and then I'll select that area, and then I'll hit the letter C for crop tool and hit enter. Now it's cropped. Phantasmic. V to drag, and I'll drag it back onto the, there you go, this one. Here is my grid. I need to shrink this down. This is 20 pixels too wide. I'll do that programmatically at a later date. Now also Vine has these rounded corners that are not reflected in this design because why? Well, yes, because it's a raster image, it's a screenshot. So if I use the rounded rectangle tool, hit U a lot until I get it, and I'll make these 3. And then hit go. 3 pixels is what it should be. Good. And I should have made this 300 pixels in the dialog, but it doesn't matter. 300 wide and whatever the heck tall. There we are. Now I'll move that one behind by hitting Command bracket, and I'm gonna use it as a masking layer. So now I have the rounded pixels from Vine, and I can double click on that rounded rectangle and hit drop shadow. So it looks like it sticks off the page just a little bit. It's quite nice. It's quite nice. Huh. In the other design I did, I ignored the 20 pixel margin and kind of like scooted it over a little bit more, and I like it better. So something to remember here is that this design is going to be flexible, like truly flexible. Even these columns, I'm not going to have, even though I'm designing it pixel for pixel here, I'm not going to have 20 pixels between the 2 columns at all times. No, these columns are flexible. There's going to be a minimum of 20 between the 2, but the columns themselves will flex out and flex in depending on how big the canvas is, or how big the viewport is. So let's not waste too much time worrying about the space in between here. Let's just continue on. So the other thing I did here with the background, this is something you see in video production sometimes. If you have like a vertical video on like a horizontal space, sometimes they do this. They duplicate this layer and put it down here by the plate. Then I'm going to make my face hecka big, and it doesn't even matter that there are no pixels or the pixels are all bad. And I'm going to crop it with the plate. Then I'm going to take the fill and put it down quite a bunch. And then I'm going to blur the crap out of it with a Gaussian blur like this. Blur more. Thank you. Wait, blur less. That was too much blur. Yeah. I like that each of these sections has like some like texturized background, except for you writing. You don't. Let me just do a Google Images search. You can get like an old Abraham Lincoln style text. Abraham Lincoln, you were the best president we ever had, except for Obama. Sorry. That's all jokes, by the way. Okay, drag this handwriting on here. This could be interesting. This could be really stupid. And we'll move that into the articles section right above the plate again, and crop it to the plate, and crop you to the plate too. Okay. Now I'll knock it down to like 20%. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe not even great. Interesting. 0.5. Whatever. It's just a weird idea. I don't know if I like it. Let's just move on. So that's the Vine section. Next section is the design section. Okay, this is going to be interesting because what we're going to do is have a dribble and Behance. So this next section here is going to be 2 sections in one. Let me put these items in a section group. A section vine. Now because it's 2 sections, I'm just going to divide this play into 2. What am I going to do? Oh yeah, divide it into 2. And so I'm going to transform anchor to the left, and the width will be in percent, 50%. Done. And then there's 2 of them, so I'll duplicate and move it over. Now, the 2 things that are going to be is dribbles on this side and then Behance on this side. So let's go get the colors for these. Dribble, blog, handbook, brand guidelines. Here we go. What's the color? Pink is this color. And that's going to be this one. And the blue for Behance can be found on maybe the links. A little too blue. Oh, there it is. There's the blue, and that's what we use for this square here. Cool. So dribble and Behance. So I'm going to drag these titles here down. Too much titles, bro. Too much titles. Okay. And I want to do a, well, let's just, am I again seeing all articles? Or what's the text I should write on the Vine one? I didn't write the Vine. Check out Vine. I like that too. Let's write check out Vine. And this one will be see more on DRIBBLE. That's 3 B's. It's a little tight on that thing there. Uploading to Dribbble. And pink, please. Great. Great. Okay, what I'd like to do for my Dribbble, for all of these, right? Okay. What I'd like to do for my Dribbble is come into my sign in, my username here. Okay, so I go into my dribs, my dribs, and find my favorite ones. Not all of these are my favorite. Some of them are my favorite. Some of them are my favorite. Okay, let's just find some good dribbles. That one's good enough. I like that one too. If I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna like it. This one's nice, little bar graph. This one's cool, little blog for some skateboarder guys. This one is the app tour, nice. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say 6. That's Arnold. I love you, Arnold. Here, oh my goodness, you guys want to see this? This is my design from before the most recent design. So it was like, oh wow, look at that. It's like so much texture and so much like drop shadowy stuff. And look at that logo. This is a while ago. Memories. Okay, what was I saying? Oh, a skateboarder guy. Can't be bad, can't be bad. Okay, that's 6, right? So what I want to do here is come in, call it drib, come into this thing and say you should be not rounded. I don't want rounded. Let's get a square. Okay, 150 by 150. That was a good square. For the other ones, oh wait, maybe I should take that down because 150 and 150 is 300, but I want some space in between them, like 10 pixels. So, you know, I'll say 145 each, I guess. So let me just try that again. I'll say this time I'll say 145 because I want 10 pixels between the two of them. So put this one on the left of my guide here and this one on the right, and there should be about 10 pixels between them. That's fantastic. And again, move this down 10 pixels. Now this section is going to have to be a little bit taller out of necessity because oh, that's gross, because you know, it's just a taller section. So see more on Dribbble. One, two, three, four, five, and then the plate itself can be bigger too. Let's measure it from the bottom of the button. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and uploading. Actually, all of this stuff needs to go up, depending on. I should have measured the top one first. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the plate should be measured after everything else is set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good, good. Okay, so this is how tall it needs to be. And these are the squares and everything. Okay. What's nice about the flexible grid that we've built is that these ugly things don't need to be in the center like that. They can be in the center like that, and that's still okay. That's still fine. And this can be, I think, uploading to Dribbble. That doesn't make sense, right? What do we want to say? Posting designs on Dribbble, designing on Dribbble. I want to show them that this is design. What do I have it marked as here? I have it as design on Dribbble, designing on Dribbble. No, I'll just put Dribbble, right? Dribbling, dribbling. Is it an E in dribbling? I don't know how to spell dribbling, but neither does Dribbble because the 3 B's kind of throw them out of the loop there. Okay, we'll say dribbling. Dribbling and behancing? No, that's language. What do I have here? I have updating Dribbble, not uploading to. Updating. Updating Dribbble. I'm sold. That's good enough. It's good enough. Okay. And then next we'll do, okay, so these will be the 4 designs, and I can make this all, this should really be one rectangle or one shape. So I'll take each of these shapes and X and then V, X and then V. So now they're all on one shape layer. That's what I'm doing. I'm selecting them, hitting Command X, which is cut, selecting the new layer and pasting them on, reducing this down from 6 layers to 1. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm just making it easier on myself to keep track of them and also use them as clipping clippy clips. What am I doing? Yes, you. Clippy clips for the actual posts, right? So now they're all these shapes are on one shape layer, and it's easier to use them as a mask. So I'm going to drag these, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 dribbles onto the thing, and then I can scale them down to where they fit. Okay, and then I'll start at the I'll start at the top here, and I'll put them all clipped to the shape that we decided. And then now that they're that way, I can actually I'll start at the bottom and drag up. Now, why am I going down, up? Actually, I should go up, down, so it can cover the next one. Okay, so the strategy I'm using is okay, I just want them all to be kind of clipped well inside of their boxes there. That looks good. We can take this rectangle and put that drop shadow on it again. Does that look a little bit muddy? It does look a little bit muddy. What if I put a stroke on them? Color of white. Inset. So this is the dribble, and then in order to do texture behind it, I didn't really have anything for dribble, so I went and I looked at like topographical maps, and I thought it was interesting to have like these kind of like elevation sketches like this, and I found a few good ones here, and I have them in my assets. Topography, so I'll just use these here because they're fun. They don't mean anything, they're just like a little bit of visual treatment here, and oops, there we go. Nope, there we go. I want to knock them out to that pink there, and then I'll make a display of multiply so that the pink shows through, and then knock the opacity down to like, 10%, or maybe like even like 0.5%, maybe more, 0.7. Yeah, that sounds nice. Okay, now that's the dribble. I can do the Behance just as well quickly. In fact, a lot of the decisions I made on the dribble affect the Behance. In fact, most of the things that I've done here can just be dragged right over. 7% opacity. Multiply. Okay. Yeah. Most of what I did in Dribble can just be dragged right over to the Behance. So let me duplicate this group, drag it over to Behance, and I'll say see more on Behance. turn it blue, updating Dribbble, and Behance. And then let's just pretend I'm throwing Behance thumbnails in there. I have them here on the other one, but I don't feel like doing it right now. So, okay, the idea is getting a clearer picture of what we're going to build. So that's Behance, that's the design section. The next section is the notes section. Let's look at the thumbnail. The thumbnail says we're going to have a sign up field and some text here, kind of supporting the idea of the promotion of signing up. So let me close this. This will be called Behance stuff. And I'll close this section up as section design. I'm going to go back into Vine and grab the plate. And while I'm at it, I'll grab the title and the CTAs. Okay, duplicated and dragged down from Vine. Great. This next section are the is the notes, right? I call them notes. It's a newsletter, and I found this image that I really like at the typewriter, and it's kind of like reminiscent of getting written a letter, and it has a good like feel to it. So I choose that one, and I'm going to use that masking technique again. But this time I'm going to create another gradient map. Gotta mask it though. Gotta select it. So here the gradient is like white on white, so that's why it's not working. So let's say I had this kind of like interesting rustic kind of feel to it. It's orange. It's interesting when you take a gradient map like this and don't just make the colors variants of themselves, but like change the hues, and you'll have like interesting, like this blue will go down to like a yellow, you know. You'll have an interesting color like that. But I still want the yellowish, orangish feel. In fact, on this one I had even more of a dark one here. So what did I do here? Okay, that's a good gradient map. For this one, let's see. We need to have some sign up fields. Okay, so this text here needs to be a little bit different. Not Vine, of course. It needs to say. Remember, the sentence is not Vine, of course. The sentence needs to say sending email notes. Yeah, that's nice. And it'd be okay if it spanned across the whole title here. Was centered. Okay. Sending email notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the top. And then instead of a CTA button, it's literally going to be a sign up form, right? So let's take this shape here. Let's hide the button. Take this shape and take this image, or take the shape over here. And I like the white. I do. So why don't I just stretch the shape across? Maybe one shape across. It's good. It's good. And it doesn't need to be checkout Vine. It needs to be send or subscribe. Okay, now I'm just making the button for the subscribe, right? It doesn't need a drop shadow on it, but it does need to change the color. I think the color will change to that. Ooh, ooh. Maybe the color can remain completely white, and I can just drop out the fill of this box. That's what we'll do. And I want to add add a stroke. So it is going to look like this in the end. That's quite good. But I want first name and last name. Actually, not first name and last name. I need first name and email. Because when I send emails, I like to call people by their first names if I can. So I'll take this and make it like 14 points. Now I'll put the label 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll put the label directly inside of the field. It's something I've been using lately, and I think it's quite effective. And this will be called email. And address, email address. And I'll change these to white. Okay, and then the last thing we need here is to divide the two with a, was it a 3-pixel shape? Yeah. Great. So first name and email address, and then subscribe. That's pretty good. Now, what I have here as well, I have like some copy explaining what the notes are, because I call them notes. It's a little bit different than what most people might think of as a newsletter. In fact, it is a little bit different than what most people might think of as a newsletter. I'm not like just kind of forcing them into, when I get newsletters from people, sometimes they're like, oh, I did this, go check that out. So it's just kind of a bunch of links of stuff they've been doing, which is nice to keep tabs on them, but mine's not about that. It's mostly I kind of send people journals. I don't know, some people like it, some people don't. I don't mind if people unsubscribe after a little bit, but some people really appreciate it. What it is, I just send them kind of excerpts from my thoughts over the past week, and it's quite nice. So I wrote some copy explaining it here. And I'm just, you know what, I'm just going to drag this whole thing. Put that in the center here, and I'll line it up, nudge it down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, did I nudge this? Count out. Start at the top when you're counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Email form. Zoinks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then make the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. See, this is what we do. This is how we create balance. Everything, even vertical space needs vertical balance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. All right, so that's the email sign up area. Maybe I'll make the subscribe button a little bit smaller. Yeah. Comfy. Okay. next section. Actually, let's add these all to a group and call it section notes. The next section is going to be podcasts. Let me duplicate the Vine section again. Okay, Vine. Okay, the next section is, I think, a podcast, right? Yeah, notes podcast. Now for the podcast section, I have this microphone that's like really kind of cool and fun looking and kind of vintagey. And I thought I'd use that for the texture of the background. It's quite nice. So I'm place it and then just clip it to the background, and I'll scoot it off to the side. Okay, now let's make another gradient map for this. Whoa, so crazy. Maybe something like that. Maybe something a little bit more aggressively dark. Okay. That's interesting. Maybe I add a little bit of color to it. Warming it up. Okay, so I'll change the title from offering creative lifestyle tips to podcasting with friends, because it's Trav and Los podcast. If you guys haven't checked out my podcast, you can if you want. It's fun. So let me go to my podcast website, because that's where these links would be going to. Trav and Los. Late nights with Trav and Los. All right, I'm going to grab this thumbnail of a podcast. There's like the latest podcast. And also, I'm going to grab this player. I remember that like there's two kind of main links for my podcast. There's this website here. And there's also, to go visit it on iTunes like this. And where people can subscribe and download all of the episodes we have. So I want to grab these two colors. These are going to be my main colors. And I want to have two buttons that are like this. And the first one, where's my CTA? It's going to be purple. And the second one is going to be the blue. And I'll simply say website. And then here I'll just say iTunes. One, two, three, four, five. Center. Okay, and podcasting with friends. This needs to be darker, by the way. So I'll make the plate black, and I'll just nudge this down. There we go. And podcasting with friends. Good job, Travis. Thank you. All right, you can go to our podcast. Here's the thumbnail. Where's my grid? And let's make this 150 pixels. That's the number of the night, apparently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll have more text. explaining the episode name. I can make this a bit smaller because it's not the title of this section. Okay, right here, and it's a little bit big. That's okay, that's all right. I'm gonna align it to the bottom of this image. Actually, I want to align. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm gonna align it to the bottom of this image and use the marquee tool to select it and just kind of move it in, move this stuff in. One, two, three. Okay. Now I'm gonna get rid of this excess here. I'm gonna cut this off. And then I'm gonna do that same technique of moving this in to our area. And also, I want to round its corners off a little bit. So I'm going to go to the rounded corner rectangle. Radius will be 3. And I'm going to put it in a rounded rectangle. There we go. Looks good. Call it player, and then I think it was like kind of translucent. There we go. That looks quite nice, and align it to the player again because it got the alignment got off because it was center aligned. And then I want to say, actually I do need the time here. It's a good thing to have, I think. Some metadatas, but I want that metadatas to be a lot smaller, like maybe 14 points or smaller. No, 14 is good. And auto. Cool. That looks good. That looks good. Maybe I can bump this text up a little bit. It could be bigger. 24, 30, sure. Okay, so it's going to be like the latest episode, and you can play it right here on the website, or you can go to our website and check out the other episodes, or go to iTunes and subscribe. Pretty good. Pretty good. Okay. The last section of the night. Oh my life. Can you believe how long it's been taking? The contact section. The contact section. This should be pretty smooth. What I want to do here is just grab the plate and write my email on it, actually. And grab a title too. Where's that title? Podcasting with Friends. Call it section contact. I didn't call it that. Call it contain. There you are. I'll take this section up a little bit. I don't want it to be too long, because the truth is this whole section is one button, or at least it will be, or something like a link, right? And I'll just write my email. And they can contact me. I'll change the font weight to light, make it super sexy with the big, super sexy big font, and maybe do some letter spacing. There we are. Change the background color to red, no, orange,
green. Like a... Cool, and then I'll just cinch this crop up right there. And did I center this text yet? Ah, there we are. That red's not right. That red's not right. There. That's good. That's good. Cool. I like it. I like it. Oh, this podcasting section is way too big. One, two, three, four, five. Yep, there we go. Whoa, whoa. Okay. Now the context section can move up, and we can crop again. Oof, we did it. Look at this. Look at this fantastic design. We've got, let's start at the top. Travis is trying to grow up, but instead spends his time teaching everyone how to make websites on YouTube, mentoring people like you, writing and designing articles, offering creative lifestyle tips on Vine, updating Dribbble and Behance, sending email notes, and podcasting with friends. TravisNielsen.com. Maybe it could be like what just happened there? Okay. Contact him at, and then that's like super small. Nah, I don't like it. Okay. Saved. Done. Okay, we did it, guys. We did it. I like it. I like it. There are some rough edges that we're going to iron out in the code. For example, this is going to be more along the lines of this and that. You know what I mean? Like this is going to be a little bit more along the lines of this. But all in all, I think it's pretty good. And I'm really interested to see how we can get this grid to give us a good solution for what we're looking for. Because there are different types, right? Like this podcasting, even though it is 2 columns, it needs to be a little bit more tight. But these are 2 columns, but they need to be like a little bit more independent of each other, right? Same with the Vine in the articles here. So we definitely have some, it's a very unique grid that we're going to have to build. But I think the principle that we had of keeping the critical content within the grid is going to give us a good starting place when we begin to code in next week. So, oh man, thank you so much for sticking with me through this whole design process. This is how designing works. It's you make a lot of silly decisions for no reason, and you don't really ever know if it's a good idea or not until the end. So
we now have a picture of what we want to build. And that's really all it is, isn't it? This is a picture of something that I would like to build someday. It's Pinocchio before the fairy. It's the Tin Man before Oz. Maybe. Next week, we're going to look at the technical aspects of the project. We're going to look at the technologies and languages that we're going to use to bring this picture to life. Join me then for the project setup, and until then, keep painting pictures of things that don't exist yet. Hello, welcome to the end of the show. I just want to take a second to thank these people here. These are the names of the people who support the show via Patreon. Not only do the people who are in the Patreon community bring you dev tips every week for free, but they also enjoy other perks like Dev Tips Chat, extra videos, and even a private Patreon podcast. To learn more about what we're doing over there, there's a link in the description below, or just visit patreon.com/devtips. I would love to have you join us, but if you're still unsure, here's something somebody said recently about their membership in the community. Thanks again.